So welcome everybody. This is our town hall, and this is our town. All these little pictures on the wall there, or on your computer, are our town. And welcome to our community, or our club, or our town. Welcome to our town. It's so nice to see each and every one of you. I have such kinship with each of you, and it's so nice to see you together. And so welcome. Let's see. Well, I thought maybe we'd just start off with a couple of remarks. So this is a kind of maybe you might say a collection, or a group of like-minded souls who, in one way or another, have been touched by the principles, and I'm among those. And what the principles have done, really, for all of us, and for increasing numbers of people throughout the globe, is quieted their minds, their personal minds, and they found that in that stead, we've all found we found the rule of universal law, and universal law has been something that humankind has really been, missing by and large. And Sid Banks found it, surprisingly to him, and talked about it for the rest of his life. That happened to him when he was 43, as you all probably know. And so there are these people and communities and groups and training programs, yada yada yada. I mean, all over the place, and we're one of them. And welcome to the group. It's so nice to see all of you and all of your faces, and have all your spirits together. So we're here to talk, and maybe we could increase our level of understanding, about universal law, and what that's meant to us, or what's the cutting edge of it, because it has continuous sorts of revelations built into it, as we all know. So it's not only continuous, it's infinite. And so maybe that's enough said for the time being. And maybe I'll turn it over to the town. Any of you town folk have anything to offer? I see so many faces. I could call upon any raised hands. Maybe I should start with that. Maybe there's Hank's got a raised hand.
I noticed a few things that I wanted to share and maybe explore and have a look in that direction. In learning about the inside out and the outside in, at some point I started to look from inside out only, in a way, as in it's the only thing that's going on constantly. And from there, I looked at, like, what's this psychopathology? What's this outside in that's going on? Well, that's thinking in the moment that doesn't look like it's thinking. And I never seen that before, but it became so much simpler.
Mm.
And in the past month or so, this unified look at it started to produce more and more insights, which was very welcome. And at the same time, keep me level-headed, where it's just, it doesn't matter. It's not so much about the content anymore. It's more about this underlying thing of this is going on and my psychology is built upon it. And I see that in others as well. And it's been very, it's been hard to speak about, but it's been a very welcome evolution. And I just wanted to share an experience. I taught at university about 10 years ago, and I recently got a chance to be a guest lecturer again for a particular subject. And the university was identical. It was the same vibe, the same situation. Students, teachers, learning. But I noticed that I was able to appreciate it immensely much more. And I noticed that this is a really nice place. I absolutely love this learning that's going on here. And it struck me that I've been looking pretty much a lot at the outside in, especially in learning about the principles and the logic behind it. I was very, very focused on, okay, what's this outside in? How does it play out? And after that university day, the next day I woke up and I thought, I might have to change direction here or look at it differently. Because the qualities that are present there, of course, there's ego. There's a lot of ego everywhere in different forms. But I noticed as well that the student I was talking to, they were sitting still, they were being very present, they were responsive, and they didn't have a lot going on. And I thought, this quality is what's the inside out about, as far as I can tell. And I really liked it. And it did something to me. It helped me realize that, yes, the distinction between inside out and outside in is fundamental, and it's super helpful. But in the end, I don't know. I just wanted to share what hit me, and I wanted to just share it with this group because I'm so flabbergasted by the qualities of the inside out. And I sometimes you run into something, you're like, gosh, this is really nice. I'm quite appreciative of it. And I found a lot more hope, a lot more hope in myself. And I figured I'd share that, and we'll see from there. But yeah, it's cool. I absolutely love this learning and this understanding and the incisiveness of it. And then to run into it again and again, year after year after year, where it's like, it's still the inside out and the outside in. It's still about how it works, but it's still evolving, which is remarkable. I just figured I'd give that to the group and reflect on it. And it's cool.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Hank. You know, I would say, if I may say, I would say something similar, that in my own understanding, or the growth of my own understanding, the outside in has become increasingly negligible. It's really interesting. I think there was a long time that I was sort of doing battle with it, you might say, or something. But I don't see it. I don't see it in the way that I used to see it, and I don't feel. And I can see there's a growing. There's what you've given description to. It is growing amongst many of us, I believe. The sense of not the sense, but the truth of the fact that I mean, you could say it only works one way. You could say there's some, there's the power and the former power and former power of the illusion is becoming. We're all becoming more and more beliefless and more factual, and I think it's happening. It's happening in all sorts of different ways and places and avenues and means and streets and towns and all over the place. That like I was talking to someone the other day, and I remembered, this is just one example of this, but Sid would, in his, many times when we would visit him, he would be trimming his roses or painting his house and for me, I always thought, no, you should be on television. And he said once, I could do more for the world working in my garden than I could being on television. And I thought, that is just hard to imagine. But I think we're imagining it, and you're speaking to it in your own way, Hank. And I hear many others saying the same thing in different ways, but the same piece. And the I see people. A few of us know about this. I know Sandy's on here, and we a few weeks ago we attended the last school at on Salt. We didn't go to Salt Spring, but we on Zoom we attended the last school for the last three principal school that had been essentially endowed by Sid, and they decided to quit. And when I first heard about that, I have to confess, I thought, oh no, premature. There's so much work, there's so much suffering, so much work that needs to be done. But as I reflected on it, it's exactly what you're saying, Hank. There was a sort of like a that the work had already, in a way, the cat was out of the bag. The principles are out, or this truth among us has been acknowledged and claimed and owned, and we've benefited and continue to benefit from it in a lifelong way. And what a and as we see it unfolding and learning from it, we're just extraordinarily struck by the beauty of existence and the disappearance of beliefs to the contrary. Thank you.
Can I share another story?
Please.
Okay. about 3 years ago in the Lacona seminar in Brazil. Stanley Crott was there as well, so I know but at one point during that workshop, she spoke about as you learn about the principles, you will find your voice. And now, early on in my learning of the 3 principles, I've heard other people saying that you will find your voice. And what I did at the time was like, I wonder what my voice would sound like if I found my voice. So I would come up with ideas about it, you know. And because I was coming up with ideas about it, I would try and find a way to try and make it be true, try and make it be a realization of my ideas, that kind of thing. But it wasn't working for me, so I kind of just gave up on the idea. And to allude to what both Keith and Hank is saying, as I just kept learning and learning and learning about it, have more insight and so on, right? And then the conference came along where Stanley said, you get to find a voice, right? And in that moment, I realized I've already found my voice. I just didn't realize it would be anything like what I thought it would be. So I was like, so what did I do to make that happen? Nothing. I didn't work on it. I didn't put effort on it, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's something that just naturally emerges when I am being inside out. I'm going, oh. So I think that's another way of saying what Kate and Hank is saying. It's really nice, and it's a really nice surprise at the same time too.
I'm reminded of a story, a little story that. Well, hi, I see Barbara Friedman. Hi there, dear. It's so nice to see you. What was I got interrupted there in my thought, but this is just a little story about him that I've been made privy to. He said, the day after his enlightenment, his mother-in-law confronted him because the day before he had said that what he learned would change the psychology and psychiatry of the world, and she came up to him and said, who do you think you are? You're a welder. You don't know the first thing about psychology. And he paused for a moment and he said, because he knew she was absolutely right. He did not know one thing about this profession. And then he said, because Grandma, the 3 principles of divine mind, divine consciousness, and divine thought are universal law, something of that sort. I have his exact words. And I doubt very many people in the world know the first thing about it. And then he thought to himself, where did that come from? Like exactly what you're saying, Brett, about his voice. Like he heard himself say that, and he did not know where that came from. It was his voice, but and so he thought to himself, according to this little story, he thought to himself, how do I know that? And then he says, and then he looked into his heart, and he knew it was true. And then he says, I says something really interesting. He says, for the last time in my life, that was the last time in my life I doubted it. The last time in his life that he doubted it. I thought that was really a beautiful little thing that I just recently come across that story, and I wanted to reiterate it.
Yeah.
Where is he? Where are you?
Here I am, sitting on my white couch again, like always, in Boulder, Colorado. Good to see you, Keith. And thank you for doing these town halls. I really appreciate it. It's gotten so much with me now that I can actually feel. I can feel when 3 months have passed, like this past. It's about time for this, isn't it? You know, so I definitely look forward to them. I watched this past week. I watched the recording. I couldn't make it live of your presentation to the the apprentice practitioners, I guess they call us, you know. So, and I really enjoyed that. You talk a few times about the enlightened gardener, and there you referenced it. So of course I had to go get my book and read it again, especially the last chapter. And I noticed in looking at the book that I had highlighted a lot of, especially when Sid is talking, or his character is talking, and now when I go back to it, I don't pay too much attention to the actual story. And I thought this time in looking through it, I mean, I had what was highlighted, and of course in reading through it, I highlighted more than I had highlighted before. But I paid a lot of attention actually to the story that he was telling of the enlightened gardener and the trip to England, and to you know, it's like a sightseeing tour of England. And I again used to think that, well, that was just kind of fluff that he put in there. I mean, it was a nice story and everything, but this time it occurred to me, which I've heard you say so often too, is that, you know, the wisdom that he was drawing on, but that he often told people that he was teaching just to go back to their life, you know, and enjoy their life, right? And that's what it occurred to me that maybe he was doing in story form here. He was embedding his you know, the core, the idea and his teachings in just kind of common everyday life, going to visit, looking at gardens, you know, looking at flowers, and anyway, I wondered if you kind of thought that, because I wondered why he chose this format, you know, for presenting his ideas, you know, this story format. And anyway, it kind of occurred to me that with the story, he was also encouraging us to take this into real life, you know, and not stay in the abstract that he was, the ideas and all. So it also occurred to me that maybe the idea of gardening might have some real importance, that metaphor of gardening. And I hear you talk about him taking care of his roses, and when people would come to visit and everything. So I'm wondering if it would help my understanding to start getting into gardening a lot or two. You also talked about that great place up in Washington, I guess, a garden that people come from all over the world to visit. The
Bushart Gardens, yeah.
yeah, I'd like to go there sometime.
It's actually in Canada, to tell you
Oh,
the truth.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's on Vancouver Island, in Canada.
Uh-huh.
But to your point, I think that's what we're all bearing some witness to again, is sort of like the beauty and the magnificence of existence being made more evident to our eyes and to our lives, you know, and maybe it's, we could say, the clarity to see it, you know, it's not as if it hasn't always been here, but removing the you know, the cataracts and beliefs, the psychological, all the psychological beliefs, all the mental clutter, all the so-called the illusions of the outside in, having them disappear and disappear and disappear and disappear, and then the brilliance and the beauty and the solace and the magnificence of God becomes so ever present, or more present, you know, that we can't help but say wow, or thank you, or be moved, you know, be awed by that, and you know, just one way to say it, but I think the stillness of our own egotisms and our own beliefs, and that's happening to all of us, and to countless others, is, you know, is turning a new page for human, and it's been prophesized and predicted by many, you know, by many wise people, but I never knew it would happen this way, you know, like, but of course, when I see it, that's the only way that it could happen. You know, there's only, it couldn't happen through some political movement or some a great leader emerging, or some, or some such thing. It would happen by the realization of souls, of the gift of our earth, and the gift of our existence, of our spiritual nature being so tangible, so surprising. I like what you said, Brett, about it. Your voice surprised you, and but wouldn't it have to be the case, if you're not familiar with something, and then but you find it, you hear it, you see it, it would have to be it would have to delight you and speak to you, speak to your soul. How magnificent is that? It's too precious to to behold, really, isn't it? You can see like in all those movies when they behold they find they're always looking for the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant or the Ten Commandments or whatever it was, so that it would be a blazing light of so brilliant that you could. This is in the movies I'm talking about, so that you couldn't really see it. Thank you, Gil.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
David. David, I saw you raise your hand a moment ago.
Oh, yeah. Keith and I had a session I did about 15 years ago. It was our last phone counseling session. And I had cancer. And we talked about this, we talked about that. And then we spontaneously became quiet for about 20 minutes. And there was about 20 minutes left in the hour. And Keith said, I think we found it. The quietness. There isn't anything more to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remembered that this morning when I was thinking about listening to you again. We met a couple of times at Barb's and we haven't crossed a lot, but I think there's so much truth in that. In the silence, kind of before the words, even before the metaphors. Because Sid did say that, the principles were metaphors, pointing to love or whatever you want to call it. At least that's what I heard Sid saying. And maybe that truth is before sound, before word. And when I remember that this morning, I just went to another level. So that's what I wanted to share.
How about you, Svi? You got anything?
Oh, what can I say? First of all, I'm very grateful for, I don't know if I've said this enough, for the amount of effort and work you and Valda put into me personally. I would like to think that it's paying dividends. But I think that what I'm hearing more clearly from your work, and again, it's echoed in, I see it in Sid's work, and particularly from the little help I get by with my friends from Brett Chitty and Basia Friedman, Rosella Grunbaum, who are all deeply influenced by your work, it's recalibrated what we think we're up to. When Sid talks about that he feels he could do more for the world sitting in his garden, in a certain way, that reminds me of some of the ego that's built within myself due to the little successes that I may have run into in sharing the principles. And I'm just reminded of it was an episode with you actually, where I had referred someone to you. They had came out, they went all the way out to Laconner. The fellow was really struggling, and you put a few sessions in, did your work. He didn't hear much, and I think he ran off to Vegas. But what was remarkable was that afterwards you told me how excited you were about the fact that you weren't down over the fact that you didn't get through to this fellow, that you were comfortable with the fact that you did your work, you shared your heart, you pointed as best you can, but that it was clear to you that ultimately it's the individual's own insight that has to happen in order for them to see a different universe, and that you didn't have that power, that you didn't beat yourself up over the fact that this didn't kind of pan out the way that you thought it would. You were no longer caught up in the idea that you had a formula, a specific way to teach and share that would ultimately change the world. You were just, this was your garden, you were planting seeds, but there was a different order that was running things. And I'm seeing that a lot more, and just for myself, almost to the extent that I just want to stay in my own little garden. Well, now my garden might be my books behind me, but sometimes I feel that I might be able to do better for the world just by sitting in my garden. But that's the only thing that comes to mind for me right now.
Thank you. Hmm. Hmm.
I see Richard has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I sort of recently had an experience where I felt I was sort of going backwards, and I sort of felt a bit very disappointed sort of in myself, in that I got very nervous, and then I sort of recriminated myself, and I was sort of struggling and thinking I should know better. And, you know, I sort of tried to talk myself out of the anxiety by, you know, repeating stuff that I knew, but I had just got into a situation where I was very, as I say, very nervous, and then I sort of beat myself up over it for being nervous. And the only time when it was slightly better was when I sort of accepted the nervousness, but I still sort of felt a bit sort of embarrassed, really. And it's not even it seemed to me not even a legitimate situation to get really nervous about. So that was another layer of thinking I had about it. It was actually a sports occasion where I was going golfing with friends, and I got myself heavily wound up about it. And as I say, I feel a bit embarrassed even to say that, because it's not like I was doing a exam for a PhD or giving a talk in front of 100 people. I was just playing golf with some friends for a few days, but I got completely in my head about it, and then quite upset about it. And I wanted to run that past you, but it feels a bit trivial.
Well, I think just by thought, I think that I mean, for me, the simplicity of remembering where our feelings are coming from by law, by universal law, and even the further, you mentioned the further incrimination. Not only are you at odds, but you're you're laying another layer in, you know, of beliefs that you shouldn't be. And it's not even a serious matter. It's a trivial matter. And well, there's another, you know, another layer of thinking and beliefs, and it goes on, you know, but the fact that that's and the feelings, the feelings you get from that are terrible, and which can make it even more disturbing. And I always remember something, and then, but you touched upon it right there. You said, you know, that it was humbling, but just seeing a bit of it, like you might have to just laugh at yourself, you know. You might just have to go, oh, you know, this is, and in that laughter, in that little twinkle of laughter, in that little sense of the futility of my own thinking about my thinking, about my thinking, about my thinking, that little peal of laughter, that little twinkle of laughter, is telltale, isn't it? Because it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling, and in that good feeling, there's wisdom, and there's a cancellation of prior ignorances. So, and as we all know, I mean, Sid would often say that good feelings are packed with wisdom, and I think the humor, the humility, the the sort of the self. It's kind of there's a word called self-effacing humor, you know, where you just go, oh yeah, oh boy, I what a fool am I, you know, or what, or I was so silly, or what, however you might, the lilt, the lightness, the truth, you know, coming through is tremendous. There's something in there that's so magnificent, isn't there? You know, that really saves us, and that's a good feeling. That's in a good feeling. That little smile. Oh, there I went again, or there I have been. There before the grace of God go I, or there before the grace of God have I been. Just terrific, just terrific. Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
Is that okay that I make an additional comment about what Richard said?
Please.
Okay. I used to play golf,
Oh, say again?
So
I'm sorry, say
I
that again.
used to play golf.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I remember the behaviour that I had and the behaviour of my playing partners as well. One of them, I called them Mr. Time Bomb, you know, because he had a very short fuse, right? and I didn't know anything about the principles at the time, but me and my friend would try and do everything we can to wind him up to make that fuse even shorter. But those days are over anyway. But one thing that I thought was very interesting, what you said was that when you said you had a feeling of nervousness and you experienced something when you accepted it.
Yeah.
I think that's a very big clue.
Yeah.
Okay, because one of the things that I found difficult to get on board with was the idea that there are feelings I'm not supposed to feel. Right? But once I realized that the principle is about all feelings, meaning all thought, and I'm like, oh, there's no really one feeling that's not principle based than any other. Right? So that taught me, okay, the principle involved here, and not what do I need to do about the feeling. So when I found that place, I felt much later. And the interesting thing was, again, that took me by surprise, is that once I didn't do anything about the feeling changes. So that's the opposite of all the ideas that we come up with about what do we do about these feelings? How do I not feel this feeling? How do I have this particular feeling? The less we do about the feeling, then that's a sign that we're having less thinking. Therefore, we experience something lighter, something deeper, and therefore the wisdom's more likely to come through. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, as I was reflecting on the inside out and the outside in, it was Val that brought this up. She spoke about the thought police, and I didn't quite know what she meant by that. So I should have the idea and just let it bounce around and see what might that mean. Okay. So I asked myself, if I am inside out, would I think about my thinking? And I'm just thinking, no, I don't think I would. If I'm inside out, I would be just experiencing the inside out. If I'm outside in, would I think about my thinking? Yes, I would. So I'm like, oh, this inside out is a very different order than I thought it was. So I shared this with you, Kate, at one of the Quircy round of conferences. But I said that I thought what made me a good person would be that I would have my thoughts, and then I would watch my thoughts and then see, is that thought good? Is that thought bad? If it's bad, I'll try and get rid of it. If that thought good, I'll keep it. That will make me more of a good person, more of a better person, more of a kinder person, more generous, that kind of thing. Right? And because that's what made sense to me, that's what I did. Right? But when I have that question of, would I think about my thinking and the inside out? I I started to realize that not so much about what I was thinking. I started to look at what is it that's doing the watching of my thoughts. Okay, and then I was thinking, well, hang on a minute. If all there is are the principles, does that mean the watcher is also my thinking? And then suddenly that hit me. Oh, so I'm having my thoughts and I'm using my thinking to watch my thoughts. Well, isn't that a second layer of thought? Why do I want a second layer of thought? It's crazy. So I'm like, okay. So now that I've had that insight, I'm like, I wonder what not having to think about my thinking anymore would look like. I had no idea, but I now knew that it was a possibility,
Yeah.
a genuine possibility. So I thought, okay, let's just drop the whole watching my thoughts thing for a few days and to see what happens. And boy, it was so much nicer. I couldn't believe the quality that I was having that was just springing out of nowhere. That I didn't realize that I was using my watching of my thoughts. That was what was stopping it from happening. So, so again, it's like, I mean, nobody ever told me this, but we all in this group are dropping clues to each other. Like Keith is dropping a clue, Bout is dropping a clue, Hank is dropping a clue, David is dropping a clue. Whether we've got the ear to hear it, I don't know. But it's just so incredible that what seemed like a good idea can take me away from my own wisdom. So I completely relate to you, Richard, that the golfer, believe me, I've broken a couple of golf clubs, and when I slammed the club on the ground, I let the hole about this deep. No, you and me both.
Oh, thank you, Brett.
That's great. Oh my, that's great.
I was thinking of an analogy somewhere I read, which is, if the waves on the surface of the sea start to, get rough, you wouldn't get a tennis racket and try and beat the waves down. You would just accept them for what they are. So I felt that the more I tried to combat my nerves, the worse it got. It snowballed. The more I tried to struggle, and even using 3 principle based sort of wisdom or what I thought I knew was just part of that combat. So it was just making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
That metaphor kind of hits me. It's kind of like finding yourself in the kiddie pool, but it looks like an ocean. You're just splashing and trying to get it better. And the beauty is you might realize at some point that it's still your free will and your own use of thought. You're still using the principles and you're like, oh, but I'm making the waves here. You're like, oh, this is actually a kiddie pool. It's not a big deal. Oh, well, okay, well, so the pool's destroyed. There's that. That was good learning.
Maybe I could just stand up, Such good times. Thank you all for your comments and your good stories and examples. It's so heartening to me. Make me smile. I can't hardly, they say, wipe that smile off your face, soldier. Well, I think they'd have to send me to the guardhouse because I've got one on my face I can't begin to wipe off.
Ruby,
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kit. Pleasure to meet you again.
It's likewise.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question and then maybe share a little bit of experience as well. So I'll just share a little bit of experience first. Just not too long ago, I kind of like always sort of listening to various people using the word quieten your mind and letting go of your thinking and, you know, getting quiet and I just kind of had a wisdom and insight not too long ago, was that what is there to quieten? There is nothing to quieten. So why are we using like, oh, to quieten something when all it is that we are creating this illusory thinking that we make up, which is not even real. So what is to quieten? There is nothing to quieten because we are already this magnificent, you know, sort of stillness already. And so there is nowhere to get to. There is nothing to quieten. There's no doing. And it was amazing because I thought, oh, wow, there's nothing to quieten, which I knew already before, and there's nothing to do. But I thought, oh, wow, there is nothing to quieten. And we are all quiet. The real, true us are already quiet. And the only noise is that we make up, which is noise that is not even real. Nothing to let go. So all we kind of make up is the noise that we kind of like believe to be the reality when it's not. That was an amazing kind of awakened insight.
Beautiful.
And so yeah, the question I have is, I've heard Sid talk about divine illusion, and
I'm sorry, what was the word before illusion?
divine. I know Sid has mentioned divine illusion. And the way I see it, and I just wanted, you know, your take on that, is I see it as using the power of divine thought to create illusory thought, which is not real. So that's how I see it at the moment, but I just would love to kind of, you know, share your understanding on the divine illusion, maybe what Sid is talking about exactly.
Well, if I may, well, actually, I may not have to go very far here, but there's in Enlightened Gardener Revisited, at the end of it, or near the maybe near the last chapter, he does quite an exposition on the illusion, and he says, one of the characters in his book says, what in heaven's name do you mean by time, space, and matter all having illusionary values? The old gardener smiled broadly at the bewildered look on our faces. Then, pointing to a nearby tree, he said, "Do you see that tree over there?" "Yes," the character said. "Well, what do you think is between you and that tree?" "Nothing," she said. "Wrong," he said. "Wrong. There are elements, oxygen, hydrogen. There are particles of dust and air, and water, and many other sorts of things unseen by you and me, or between you and that tree." And then he says, he writes, both Emily and Andy were grinning from ear to ear at the look of mystification on Janet's face. Then the old gardener said, "Think of it this way, Janet. What I'm saying is this: literally everything in this physical world is created from the same formless energy." Now I want you to look carefully, and you will see that if this is so, if that's so, you are also a product of this formless energy. And he goes on to say, time has illusionary values. Infinity does not, but the world of time has illusionary values. The world of matter has illusionary values. And so I think that's helpful. That was helpful to me, the logic of that, to see that, oh my God, we're all connected to this formless energy, and that the intelligence of all things is this formless energy, and the principles are made of this formless energy, and the whole universe is made of this formless energy, whether it's in form or formless, but the formlessness of it has often been overlooked, you might say, or misunderstood, or because it's unseen. It's not. It's as if it's not there. Well, it is there. It is there. And getting those two put back together, as Valda said, then you quit splitting. And when you see that those two are unsplittable, and that thought, your own gift of thought, allows you to recognize that illusion of separation between the physical and the spiritual. It's an illusion. And that brings peace to the thinker, or to anyone that might be lost in the illusion of and the needless suffering that they're incurring because of that lostness, that's needless. It is truly needless. It's suffering needlessly. And so seeing the link there, for me, really embraces, or I could see what is meant by a divine illusion. It's not really an illusion at all, but it's divine, and the, you know, by that, by the truth of that, sets us free, and it cures our lostness and our psychological, our false suffering, you know, our suffering needlessly every time, because it's all based on, you know, a house of cards. It's not based on anything. It is illusory. And Sid said, don't, you know, we're just going to become more and more beliefless and more factual. And that's what's happening. And he said, don't even search for this state of belieflessness or enlightenment. Just know that it exists. Just knowing that it exists is enough. I have a good friend of mine, Sandy Crott, and she goes on a walk in her woods, and there's little birds called black-capped chickadees. And there's one right outside my window here, gathering berries off my bushes. And when she goes to her woods, she and Peter hold out their hand. They've loaded their pockets with seeds, and those little birds just come and lighten their hand. And she's taken me on those walks, and it's such a sweet little thing, you know, to see a bird, a little tiny bird like that, just fly out of nowhere. They're probably up there waiting for Peter and Sandy to take their walk. Like, hey guys, here comes some free seeds. Let's get ready. And there's a bunch of them that show up every time. He's gone now. You know, maybe this is a good place to stop. And thank you all. Thank you for your listening and your questions and your comments and your presence. Good wishes.
I cannot speak on behalf of the group, but I thank you too, Keith.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Thank
I
you.
am going to
Thank you.
unmute everybody now.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
all.
Keith.
Stay safe.
Thanks, buddy. Just what the doctor
Thanks a
ordered.
lot.
Yes. Mahalo nui.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Keith. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, take care, everyone. All the very best.
Bye, Brett.
Bye bye, town.